You have been warned! Spider-Man Brand New Day has been out for 4 days? 5 if you consider Wednesday, which the sneak previews, and then the Thursday previews, and then Friday, Saturday, it's Sunday. It's coming out on, this video is coming out on Sunday. We are going to talk spoilers about Brand New Day. So if you haven't seen it, click off the video, go watch the movie. It's worth it. It's a good time. So, yeah, talking spoilers. Before I dive in, if you would, subscribe, like button, hit the bell, comment down below. All the spoilers. What are things you loved? What are some things you didn't like in a spoiler fashion? So if you haven't seen the movie, click off. Go watch my spoiler-free review. And with that said, I'm excited to talk about spoilers because I didn't know if I was going to do a spoiler review for Brand New Day. But then I watched it, and I'm like, there's some things I need to talk about that have spoiler themes in it. So I don't really like doing the whole go through the entire course of the movie, so I just wrote notes. I wrote individual scenes, individual things that stuck out to me because I don't really like going through the whole movie. It's just not really my style of video. So with that said, let's dive in. And the first thing I want to talk about is the first half of this movie. I think is much weaker than the second half of the movie. Now, not to say there's not good stuff in the first half. There really is. The Scorpion fight was cool. I wish it was a little longer. I wish we got to see more of the Scorpion as a Scorpion and not just his brain being controlled and him just fighting Spider-Man. I wish we got to see more of the Scorpion, but the fight was still cool. I just wish it would have lasted for a little bit longer. But you got that. You got numerous sequences with Peter and MJ and the Punisher. The tank scene, like the beginning tank scene, is phenomenal. It's a fantastic way to open up this film. He stops the tank. There's a bomb that goes off. He sees the threat. No better way that you could have started this movie. But it also drags a little bit. We do a little bit of the Peter's going through changes and he's becoming something. His arachnid stuff is heightening and his human stuff is going lower. And I didn't think that was the most compelling plotline, especially because there were rumors of them doing Man Spider, or they could have done the Venom stuff, and it's just he's changing because he's sad. Could have been a little bit more compelling, but also there was some really big draggy moments, and there were times where I was thinking to myself, I kind of want to get to the action. But then the second half comes, and I think it's a lot better. It really all starts with the rooftop scene with Peter and MJ where she kisses him, and he's like, hey, the spell is broken. And the first time I watched the movie, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way they just broke the spell just like that, right? That is really, really dumb. And then it's revealed that her brain was being controlled. And holy smokes, man, that is a phenomenal scene as Peter's just thinks that he has what he wanted back and realizes that it was all fake. And that line he says where he's like, I believe he says, if you know how much I loved her, then you would know what you're doing right now is unforgivable. That's a cold line. That is excellent writing right there. But that whole scene was really where it started to get a little bit better for me when he rescues MJ, learns that the mind controller is Jean Grey. We'll touch on that here in a little bit. But every single scene with Peter, MJ, and Ned is just phenomenal, man. Like the scene after the Hulk fight, we'll touch on that, the Hulk fight here in a minute. But that scene where he walks up and MJ's holding the letter, phenomenal stuff. My theater gasped both times I saw the movie. Just really great emotional stuff. And then the scene where Peter and Ned and MJ are hanging out and they're building Legos is just brings a tear to my eye every time because as a massive Homecoming fan, as a massive fan of the Home franchise, as a massive fan of the chemistry that these three people have, that scene is just so emotional. Knowing that Peter's getting a little bit what he wants, but it will never be the same again. It is done so, so well. All the emotions with them, every scene is just awesome. We'll talk more about the emotions here in a minute. The Hulk fight, when I first watched it, it gave me vibes of Captain America Brave New World. Just at first. Not like a bad thing, but he's fighting the Hulk. Is Hulk really that compelling of a villain for Spider-Man? But the fight is very cool. The stuff that he does when he's falling at the building, he connects all the webs to Hulk and the building pieces. All that's really cool. It's another fight that I wish was just a little bit longer. I feel like this fight sequence could have been a lot longer for how much it was marketed. Like, we saw the entire fight in the trailers already. But it's still a very cool fight. And it's awesome to see Rage Hulk for the first time in like 11 years. The last time we saw Rage Hulk was in Age of Ultron. You could say we saw him in Thor Ragnarok, but really, that's not Rage Hulk. This is Mad Hulk. And the fight is awesome. But I also love how Jean Grey mind controls the Punisher, has him do that. That line, like, oh, this guy's got issues, is awesome. And then he breaks down the vault door that they're trying to get into, and Jean Grey gets stopped by Spider-Man. And that whole sequence is just really good, and really that's the turning point to this movie. We're like, it's okay, to, this got really good. Let's talk about Jean Grey. The big spoiler for Spider-Man Brand New Day, Jean Grey. I gotta say, I'm not a fan of Jean Grey in this movie. Okay, I think Sadie Sink plays her perfectly. The stuff that she does in the third act, the emotions that she has to bring, I think Sadie Sink hits it. She's great. I don't think it's the fact that she's Jean Grey the reason I don't like her. I think it's her motive, right? Because we don't really need her motive being, oh, I got a sister, and my sister's dead, so now I'm mad at them. No, she's an X-Men. Her motive could have easily been that one of, like, sure, the sister thing, not terrible. It's not the worst thing you could have done, but you definitely could have done something like, I don't know, introduce Cyclops in this movie. He was captured, or Professor X, or been like, oh, they've been haunting the X-Men, so I'm going to do something about it. And this kind of introduce the X-Men in a way. Now, I understand people will be hearing me say that and be like, but wouldn't the movie be overstuffed? We already got Yelena, Hulk, Jean Grey, Punisher in this movie. I don't really think so. I think that would work much more to kind of introduce the X-Men, because you don't need to flesh them out. You just need to show us that the X-Men are there. Kind of work around that a little bit. I don't think it would feel forced in. I think what's ridiculous is Jean Grey's whole motive is, I've got a sister, and she's dead. When the X-Men's main plot is that humans don't like them. So incorporate that into the movie and don't just be like, oh, random sister. Because it's not, that's not Jean Grey. That's just a random mind control person with the name Jean Grey. Like, I don't feel like that was a compelling Jean Grey character. And so that's the big issue I have, is I'm watching this movie and I'm like, is she played good? Yes. Do I think she's going to be great in the X-Men? Yes. Do I think that her motive was necessarily the most compelling thing? No. And so I'm a little bit disappointed by Jean Grey in this film. I do think it's awesome that, not really awesome, but I do think it kind of sets up the X-Men, this movie does, with Peter making the Universal Inhibitor, where the X-Men movie comes out in 2-3 years, somewhere around there, and he makes the Universal Inhibitor. So now the people that are going to oppose the X-Men now have a device that can control the X-Men powers, and that definitely is going to set up the X-Men in the future. I think that scene with Peter and Bruce Banner where Bruce is like, how do you decide what's the good and what's the bad? Just a really good scene with some great dialogue. This movie has some great dialogue, I will say that. But, like, Peter making the Universal Inhibitor, that's like, that's going to come to play in the future X-Men. That's definitely going to come to play. Another thing I want to talk about is the hand, where a lot of people don't like the hand in this movie because they are really just henchmen. I don't really mind. Like, as a massive fan of the Daredevil Netflix shows, massive fan of all of that, I don't really mind that they're just mindless drones to fight Peter, because the fight sequence is cool. That ending is really cool. When he does the spider or the web tornado, he fights the hand, they have all these weapons, they're climbing over each other. It's a really cool looking scene. So, like, I personally can forgive it being like, oh, the hand's just a group of mindless people. Because what really were they in the Daredevil show? Or the Defenders? There was only like 2 leaders, and the rest of them were just henchmen. That's kind of what they always are. And they're kind of a cool villain for Spider-Man to fight. So, I didn't really mind the Hand in here. The Punisher, I think Punisher was utilized great in here, and I think that his arc is much better than his arc in his own show, his own special, because he definitely grows as a character in this movie, where he's always like, I'm just going to kill all the villains, whoever stands in my way. And he ends up accidentally shooting Spider-Man at the end of the movie, and him sitting in the hospital with him, staying by his side, complimenting Spider-Man. Kind of a great arc for Frank Castle, the Punisher. I thought it was done really well. And that scene where he's like, it's not okay what I did. Great acting on Jon Bernthal's part. So, as a Punisher fan, as someone who is really frustrated at the fact that he's not being utilized well at all in his special or his show, I love what they did with him. And when Spider-Man gets shot, it makes for probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire MCU, where Spider-Man's walking out of the hospital. He sees all of these people with the signs just cheering him on, hoping that he's okay, and he realizes how much he is loved by the city, how much he is not alone. And the themes of this movie is not being alone. I think the stuff with Aunt May, Peter, and Jean Grey at the end of the movie, when they're inside Peter's mind, is some really emotional and powerful stuff. And Peter walking out of that hospital, realizing he's not alone, brought a tear to my eye both times I saw this movie. It is a phenomenal scene. And that's what I mean when I say that Spider-Man Brand New Day has some of the absolute best Spider-Man emotions in any Spider-Man movie I have ever seen. And that hospital scene is great. And then you got a really funny gag with Frank putting on Spider-Man's stuff, pretending to be Spider-Man from the window. It's really funny. It's really cool. So, a couple more things to talk about. Does Ned remember? Now, I'm a little indifferent here. Because, like, obviously Peter walks up. He gives him his special handshake. The movie ends with Ned being like, Peter? So, does he remember? I'm going to say no. I don't think they'd make Ned remember. Now, if he does remember, they got an excuse. Ned is technically a wizard because of what he did in No Way Home. Technically is a wizard. But, I don't think that they're going to have him remember. I think it's just basically Ned finding out that Peter's Spider-Man. Now, I don't know. See, this is hard because part of me thinks that he does remember. Because why would you end off the movie on such a positive note? Like, oh, hey, Ned remembers. Then, Peter being like, oh, okay. Imagine how, like, heartbreaking it would be if we open up the next movie with him just being like, oh, Ned knows that Peter is Spider-Man now. But I don't know. I don't think it would necessarily be smart if the movie revealed that Ned knows, because it just kind of undo the ending of the last movie, and then Ned could probably just cast a spell and MJ could know, and then the whole ending of No Way Home is not as powerful anymore. But I think in my opinion that it is just Ned being like, oh, hey, it's Spider-Man. When MJ said Peter earlier in the apartment, he's realizing that he is Spider-Man in that scene. So no, I don't think Ned remembers who Peter is. And then the credit scene. I've heard a lot of people say that have seen the movie before me that the credit scene is not worth sticking around for. I highly disagree. This credit scene makes me excited. It is just the Find Spider-Man app, or the Spidey Finder, or whatever it's called. And it is it's showing that Spider-Man is no longer on Earth. He goes to this other Earth. Now, you can theorize a lot what that means, right? And my theory is, here's my theory, is that Peter's on Battleworld. I think at the end of Doomsday, this is my big theory, that Doctor Doom's going to win. He's going to combine the Fantastic Four universe, the MCU, and the X-Men universe together to create Battleworld. Now, in my last live stream, I broke down the Doomsday trailer. Go check that out for my whole breakdown opinions on that. But I think that's how that movie's going to end. So I think that's basically Peter going to Battleworld, showing that Peter will be in Secret Wars, because it ends with Spider-Man will return. I can't wait. That made me unreasonably excited. Just something little small, little dumb like that. That's all my spoiler thoughts on Spider-Man Brand New Day. I'm considering even seeing it for a third time this week. I'm not going to lie, my second viewing, I didn't like it as much. I think part of that was I had a massive headache. I wasn't feeling the best yesterday. But maybe I'll check it out one more time just to be like, oh, yeah, have a good time at the theater. I think I already got a few people that I'm going to go see it with, so... yeah. But anyways, that's my spoiler thoughts on Brand New Day. Tell me all your spoiler thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for clicking on this video. Spider-Man ranking coming real soon, and with that said, subscribe.